Lava!
Whoa!
Oh my god!
Holy
has erupted, spewing ash and smoke more than 2 kilometres into the air.
Beneath Pozzuoli, an 8-kilometre fracture is drawing urgent attention. Scientists now warn 2 volcanic systems may be moving together, placing millions in the shadow of rising pressure.
Pozzuoli's giant 8-kilometre split is now at the centre of urgent scientific attention, as evidence suggests dual volcanic systems beneath the region may be moving in sync, placing nearly 3.5 million people at potential risk. What was first identified as a deep structural fracture beneath Pozzuoli is increasingly understood as a tectonic corridor capable of redistributing pressure between major volcanic reservoirs below southern Italy. The fracture cuts across the restless ground of Campi Flegrei, a vast caldera that has been undergoing repeated uplift episodes and earthquake swarms in recent years. Stretching approximately 8 kilometers, this split is not a surface crack in the ordinary sense. It extends downward into the crust, potentially acting as a structural bridge between magmatic systems. Scientists are investigating whether this evolving fracture zone allows stress and magma movement to influence multiple volcanic centers simultaneously. Just across the bay stands Mount Vesuvius, historically one of the most destructive volcanoes in Europe. While Vesuvius and Campi Flegrei are separate systems, both are embedded within the same tectonic environment, shaped by plate convergence and crustal extension. If subsurface pressures are migrating along shared fault structures, the interaction between these systems becomes a matter of serious scientific inquiry. Not speculation, but structural mechanics. Beneath the densely populated region surrounding Naples, monitoring instruments record ongoing ground deformation, gas flux variations, and clusters of microquakes. Bradyseism, slow uplift driven by subsurface pressure, has already raised parts of the caldera by measurable amounts over the past decade. The newly analyzed fracture suggests that this uplift may not be isolated within a single magma chamber, but instead distributed across a broader, interconnected system. For the 3.5 million residents living within the greater Naples metropolitan area, the significance lies not in dramatic surface rupture, but in subtle synchronization. Dual volcanic systems moving in coordinated response to shared stress fields would represent a shift in how hazard assessments are modeled. The question is no longer limited to one volcano reawakening. It is whether structural evolution beneath Pozzuoli is altering the dynamic balance of an entire volcanic region. At present, there is no confirmed eruption forecast tied directly to the 8-kilometer split. However, its scale, depth, and location demand careful observation. In a landscape shaped by fire and time, even gradual tectonic reorganization can redefine risk. Beneath Pozzuoli, the ground is not merely trembling, it may be structurally aligning, and scientists are watching closely. From the outlines of Roman amphitheaters to the steam rising up through the cobbled alleys, Pozzuoli has always been a city shaped by invisible power. But what is happening beneath its foundations now is not merely a historical curiosity. It is an unfolding drama with profound consequences, driven by forces as old as the Earth itself. This is not the aftermath of a single eruption, nor the echo of distant myth. The land itself is shifting. An 8-kilometer-long crack, newly identified by scientists using state-of-the-art geological surveys and confirmed in national and international scientific reports, is suspected to form a potential corridor linking 2 of Italy's most infamous volcanoes, Campi Flegrei and Vesuvius. And in a land where both mountains and memories carry stories of spectacular destruction, the possibility that these volcanoes could begin to affect one another raises questions the world cannot ignore. What is the true significance of this subterranean fracture? Is it simply another chapter in a restless land's long saga, or the prelude to an event that could reshape southern Italy? As scientists issue their warnings and local families keep a wary eye on the trembling ground beneath their feet, we must ask,
What happens when two volcanoes, long considered neighbors, could become more closely linked than ever thought possible? Beneath Pozzuoli, once the summer playground of emperors, a silent split snakes its way through the volcanic heartland. The 8-kilometer crack discovered by geologists is not just a physical feature, but a question written large in stone. How can land that seems stable to the eye fracture so profoundly beneath the surface? Data from national research surveys traced in scientific studies outlines its path through the densely populated Campi Flegrei caldera, stretching in the direction of Mount Vesuvius. The implications are immediate, yet difficult to grasp from the surface. Stand in the streets of Pozzuoli, and nothing appears amiss. Old cafes bustle, tourists linger at fumaroles. But follow a straight line below ground, and the scenario changes. The split may offer a new pathway, invisible but real, connecting volcanic systems that have long been studied separately. According to Italy's National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology, INGV, Campi Flegrei itself is already considered a national threat due to its history of explosive, unpredictable eruptions. Vesuvius, famed for the destruction of Pompeii, looms just beyond the city's eastern horizon. Historically, volcanic systems have erupted in isolation, guided by independent magma chambers and fault lines. But now, with the discovery of this subterranean corridor, a new possibility emerges: linked behavior. Could Vesuvius and Campi Flegrei influence each other's activity? Could a problem in one system, magma movement, changes in gases, a seismic shock, affect the other? The idea that two volcanoes could move in sync is a topic under serious scientific study and debate, referenced in recent research and government reports. The current ground activity around Pozzuoli is not entirely without precedent. Bradyseism, slow ground movement, is well documented since Roman times. But today's circumstances are different. The newly identified crack is a significant physical feature that newly suggests a possible direct connection between previously independent hazards. What's easily underestimated is that new pathways underground can connect hazards we thought were separate, reorganizing risks in ways not previously considered. In the quiet depths beneath Pozzuoli's streets, the ground may be quietly rewriting the disaster preparedness of southern Italy. Italy's volcanoes are waking up. This is not a headline for drama, but a measured assessment from scientists monitoring one of Europe's most hazardous volcanic arcs. The Campi Flegrei caldera, as official reports confirm, sits at the epicenter of regional volcanic risk. A shallow, enormous volcano, historically capable of explosive, rapid eruptions that have shaped landscape and legend. However, what now unsettles scientists is the emerging possibility that severe activity in Campi Flegrei and Vesuvius could become interconnected. A crucial distinction lies in the modern techniques used to monitor these systems. Multidisciplinary teams deploy drones, ground-penetrating radar, and arrays of seismometers, sensing not only tremors, but subtle shifts in gas and ground deformation. Recent studies, published in scientific journals, document a significant uptick in seismic events below Pozzuoli and the wider caldera. These small earthquakes, usually imperceptible to most residents, often signal movements of magma or fluids at depth. Interpreted alongside satellite data, they suggest that pressures are building beneath, and perhaps between, the two volcanoes. It is in these layers of scientific findings that the 8-kilometer split emerges as more than a curiosity. The crack creates a potential route for magma, gases, and even fluids to migrate across what were previously more isolated systems. Where once Campi Flegrei and Vesuvius were believed to behave entirely independently, the possibility of a connecting fracture suggests that geological activity in one could directly influence the other. Why is this such a concern? The answer lies in eruption style. Unlike many volcanoes that produce slow flows of lava, both Campi Flegrei and Vesuvius are known for explosive eruptions. Campi Flegrei's last major blast, many millennia ago, covered much of Europe in ash. Vesuvius's eruption in 79 AD left the ruins of Pompeii. If changes in one volcano could trigger instability in the other, it greatly amplifies the hazard faced by the region's population.
Not all hazards announce themselves with fire in the sky.
Pozzuoli's story has always been one of slow, cryptic signals, whose importance often emerges only in hindsight. Since 1969, the world has watched as the ground shifted up and down, sometimes by meters, with little or no sign of eruption. This phenomenon, bradyseism, was for years viewed as a harmless geological quirk. Yet, as monitoring grew more sophisticated, these signals have come to be regarded as possible early warnings. The latest crisis, involving the 8-kilometer split, is different in both scale and character. Elevated micro-earthquakes, bursts of volcanic gases, and visible deformations in roads and sidewalks combine in concerning patterns. Government survey teams have mapped the zones of highest risk based on changes in Pozzuoli's ground levels. In the central square, residents check for new cracks in ancient stone each morning. Shopkeepers quietly debate insurance coverage, guided by the latest INGV bulletins. The scientific consensus is increasingly clear. When magma moves closer to the surface or finds new routes through the rock, the ground can lift upward, compressing soils, flexing foundations, and overpressurizing reservoirs beneath the city. In Pozzuoli, both uplift and new cracking signals have been detected in sync with events around Campi Flegrei's edge. According to published INGV and European studies, these deformations may well be the surface expression of the crack, as increased pressure redistributes through the region and the underground link between volcanoes becomes more active. Is this a natural geological cycle, or the initial phase of a feared disaster? Though scientists advise caution against overreaction, there is growing agreement that a real physical link now exists between hazards that were previously considered distinct. Pozzuoli is not simply a city atop a volcanic system. It is at the intersection of multiple, increasingly restless volcanic threats. A fracture beneath the city lies out of sight, but not out of mind. In Pozzuoli, ground movement affects homes, businesses, even ancient architecture. What does it mean in everyday life to live above an active, shifting corridor? For over 3.5 million people in and around Naples, every tremor carries personal implications. Schools close for safety inspections. Buildings are checked for subsidence or cracks. And in parts of Pozzuoli, new fissures appear overnight on paved streets. A visual warning written by the earth itself. Emergency preparedness is mandated by Italian civil protection authorities. Families plan evacuation routes, children practice drills, public agencies distribute informational booklets on volcanic hazards, and businesses monitor ground movement updates from INGV. The consequences of instability reach deep into the local economy. Tourism, a mainstay for the region, falters when volcanic unrest hits the headlines. Infrastructure projects are delayed or revised. Real estate values in high-risk zones decline, and insurance companies review their policies based on updated hazard assessments, sometimes refusing coverage for ground movement or structural damage. The psychological toll of living in this uncertain environment should not be underestimated. Pozzuoli is a city where human and volcanic histories intertwine. Stories circulate about residents woken at night by tremors, or of wells exhaling sulfurous air, a constant reminder of the volatile caldera. Here, locals say, history is only as deep as the next crack. Yet the human response is not only about fear. Civil society and scientific institutions work together to expand monitoring, share information, and strengthen emergency plans. Community networks organize mutual aid, shelters are mapped, essentials are pre-stocked in churches and community centers. In the piazzas, daily routines persist among signs of resilience. In the practical planning families undertake, in the ongoing repair of infrastructure, and in the continuity of community, even as the fractured ground remakes the landscape.
How much risk can a community accept when geology itself threatens to redraw both the physical and social world in an instant? That is a question posed every day in Pozzuoli. Italy is no stranger to volcanic disaster. The legacy of Vesuvius and the ruins of Pompeii have served as a living warning for centuries.
But what now looms in the shadow of Campi Flegrei is potentially even more complex. The explosive nature of Campi Flegrei, officially cited as the reason why it is considered a national threat, sets it apart from most other volcanoes. Its largest eruption in prehistory created the caldera visible today, blanketing large portions of Europe in ash and altering the region's environment. Vesuvius, while less active in recent times, continues to be monitored with care, retaining its potential for rapid, destructive eruptions. What some scientists now fear, based on analyses of new fractures in the region, is that both Campi Flegrei and Vesuvius could become more vulnerable to joint instability if the underground connection is real and active. An explosive eruption today could bring far-reaching effects. Ash could darken skies for hundreds of kilometers, disrupt air travel, and paralyze regional infrastructure. Pyroclastic flows, the fast, superheated clouds that destroyed Pompeii, could sweep through modern roads and neighborhoods in minutes, depending on eruption style and weather conditions. These scenarios drive regular simulation exercises and emergency preparedness drills, coordinated between local, regional, and national authorities. If catastrophe struck, official models and government risk assessments predict the need for mass evacuations, the suspension of utilities and public services, and a broad impact on food, water, and medical supplies. But if there is any comfort to be had from ancient tragedies like Pompeii, it is the hard-learned lesson that preparedness and rapid evacuation can save lives, even in the face of unpredictable natural forces. The split beneath Pozzuoli is not simply an abstract geological event. It is fundamentally shifting how authorities and communities plan for, respond to, and speak about disaster. As cracks widen beneath Pozzuoli, their impact resonates beyond immediate emergency management. Instability here is measured not only in lives, but economically, in infrastructure, insurance, and economic prospects for the entire region. The lifelines of Naples, the roads, railways, utilities, and communication systems are mapped and assessed against the latest hazard models. Government funds are allocated for the reinforcement and repair of vulnerable structures, especially bridges and tunnels crossing the caldera. Some previously planned construction projects are abandoned or revised as new risk assessments are completed, and insurance markets respond with higher premiums and tighter policy exclusions for ground movement or structural damage. Tourism, crucial to the region's economy, suffers when news of possible volcanic activity makes headlines. Bookings decrease, property values stall. Economic reports consistently show that each increase in seismic signals, or new warnings from the INGV, generates uncertainty for business and residents alike. The persistent risk has forced policymakers to focus on sustainability and adaptability, prioritizing urban plans that allow rapid evacuation, strengthening disaster-resistant building codes, and considering modular infrastructure. These measures, though costly, are recognized as essential when faced with such a fundamentally unstable physical environment. The risks associated with the 8-kilometer split and the broader unrest in the volcanic arc cannot be ignored, transferred, or simply wished away. The situation in Pozzuoli stands as a warning for all densely populated volcanic regions, that stability is never to be taken for granted.
Were Pozzuoli's 8-kilometer split an isolated event, it would still warrant concern for the local population. Yet, geological data make clear the threat is not confined to this city, or even to Italy alone. The region's limestone and volcanic underground structures extend far from Pozzuoli, underlying much of Naples and its suburbs. Researchers assessing the new split now suggest that similar processes could occur in other multi-volcano settings, a subject closely watched by geological institutes throughout southern Europe. This realization has catalyzed changes in policy and preparedness on a national scale. Joint drills between municipalities, unified public communication, and expanded simulation scenarios that include linked volcanic events are now the norm. Governments and civil protection agencies continually update evacuation plans and hazard models. The bottom line, echoed in Europe-wide policy briefings, is clear. There is no safe distance from a crisis that operates at a tectonic scale. The population at risk is not simply the 3.5 million in the immediate area,
but the millions more whose livelihoods, trade, and resources are entwined with southern Italy. Every fracture tells a story of invisible forces, a silent record of shifting pressures and ancient geological conflict. In Pozzuoli, the story is written in the tension between centuries-old traditions and a landscape always on the verge of transformation. The crack, carefully mapped, hotly debated, and deeply studied, forces a reckoning. How should people adapt to the slow violence of the Earth? Much as in other dynamic geological settings, water, gases, and molten rock migrate through zones of weakness, sometimes coupling systems previously thought separate. In Pozzuoli, the split has been centuries in the making, carved by the repeated ebb and flow of magma, flexed by tectonic drift, and stressed by the weight of modern cities above. Every added stress, from groundwater shifts to construction to minor quakes, can hasten or alter the behavior of the fissure. What makes the situation in Pozzuoli particularly challenging, according to researchers, is the unpredictability. It is not the mere presence of a new split, but the potential for abrupt changes in hazard, such as accelerated ground movement or changes in gas composition, that raises the most concern. Each scientific advance brings new data, but also deepens the mystery. Is the crack a prelude to eruption, or a temporary adjustment in the long life of this restless land? As past generations learned at great cost, the ground can never be fully understood or trusted. In the shadow of Campi Flegrei and Vesuvius, daily life presses on. Markets fill, children go to school, and scientific bulletins become another background note amid the rhythm of daily routines. The central question for Pozzuoli, and for all who live above trembling ground, is one familiar to every community in harm's way. How do you maintain daily life under threat that could emerge at any time? Adaptation is the answer. Vigilance, community, and planning. In Pozzuoli and across Naples, local knowledge blends with scientific research. Memories of missed warnings shape civil preparedness, even as authorities urge calm and readiness. For some, the best course is to move outside the red zones. For others, resilience means staying, watching, waiting, and carrying on. Urban planning, disaster drills, and even religious ceremonies become ways of asserting control and meaning in a landscape that resists predictability. Policymakers and scientists agree that there is no final solution, only the constant effort to build communities capable of absorbing shocks and adapting to the unknown.
This is Pozzuoli's paradox, a city suspended by habit and necessity between vigilance and normality, where resilience is measured by the ability to persist and adapt, not to guarantee safety. The story of Pozzuoli's giant 8-kilometer split is more than a tale of geologic danger. It is a portrait of the enduring relationship between people and land, of a region shaped by fire, by risk, and by centuries of adaptation. The future of the crack is uncertain. It may stabilize or deepen. It may become the focus of new eruptions, or simply serve as a reminder of Earth's refusal to be fully known. Today, it is a line beneath the city, a quiet, potent question for science and for society alike. As this chapter unfolds, scientists, residents, and authorities remain linked by both geography and uncertainty. Monitoring continues, emergency plans are refined, precautions are taken, and the daily life of millions plays out on the ever-changing stage of southern Italy. If you found this exploration illuminating, consider sharing your thoughts. How would you plan, prepare, or live above a moving Earth? What questions should guide the next chapter as we follow nature's most unpredictable transformations? Stay tuned for future updates, because if the story of Pozzuoli teaches anything, it is that change is the only certainty.